Hello everyone, it's Caribbean E. Welcome to the channel. Hope everybody's just having a wonderful day and that your day is going great and that you're in the best of health. Today I'm coming with another inspirational message, and it's entitled Mental Abuse. Mental abuse. I'm coming from the book of Judges, the 13th chapter through the 16th verse. Now, I'm not going to read, but I'm just going to walk you through the story, and perhaps when you get time, you can go read it yourself. This story is about a man by the name of Samson, one of the strongest men in the Bible and in his day. Samson was a mighty warrior, but allowed a female to play mind games with his future. And basically, she got into his head. There's many types of seductions that are going on in the world that we live in. There's sexual seduction, there's manipulation, there's mind control, and all kinds of things that can snap your normal thinking and give you mental issues. There's some soldiers that have fought in battles that PTSD is mental because they can't seem to forget those battlefield moments and losing their best friend in foxholes and getting shot at, losing their legs and arms. That is a mental, I would say, a mental situation that will never leave their thought plan. So, back to Samson. He was a gifted young man. He was gifted with incredible strength. But he lost his power. He was a judge who ruled over Israel during this time, before the time of the kings. He was a Nazarite. But one day he ran into Delilah. And Delilah betrayed him, a female. She betrayed him to the Philistines. Basically, from a baby, the prophecy came that no razor should ever touch Samson's head, because that's where his strength lied. There was a vow, there was a decree made upon his life that no razor shall touch his head. But Samson was a cocky kind of guy. And one day, he ran into a woman called Delilah, who was full of tricks and games. Have you ever met anybody and right off they seem so genuine, but when you really got to know them, they was full of tricks and games? And to make a long story short, Delilah and Samson got into a relationship. Delilah betrayed Samson to the Philistines. She wanted to know where his strength lied. So she kept pressing him and nagging him. And you know how females are. They still do it. We still got a lot of them doing it today. You got a lot of females that very, very pushy when it comes to some guys. And some of them are very sensual and seductive. They can get a lot of guys to do exactly what they want them to do. Say, for instance, the Dominican Republic, the North Coast, and how some women are asking some men to send them money to Western Union. They're Western Union chicks. And once the guy leaves the country, the female goes out and finds another guy to hang out with. To start the process all over again. You're not the only guy that's in her life. That's just the way she is. So Delilah met Samson. And again, the vow was to Samson, don't touch any alcohol or allow any razor to cut your hair. Samson was a bad boy back in these days. Samson later kills thousands of men with a donkey jawbone. You'll find that in Judges 15 and 16. So Samson fell in love with Delilah as time progressed. She wanted to find out where his strength lies. She wasn't in this deceitfulness story by herself. She had other people that was telling her what to do and what to tell her. So he would fall asleep and she'd wake him up and say, the Philistines are upon you, the Philistines are upon you. He'd wake up and he'd be strong like ever. So she kept on pressing him over and over again because she wanted to know what his secret was and where his secret lies. It's amazing how people are trying to figure you out. And they go all around you instead of asking you themselves. But in a long story short, Delilah betrayed him because she wanted him to tell her all his secrets. She pretended to be a true person, a true friend at first, but at the end of the story, she was a conniving woman. She used her beauty and her words to mentally abuse him. So his mental abuse turned into physical abuse later, and he lost his strength because he ended up telling this woman where his strength lies. Because she kept on vexing him and pushing him and playing games with him mentally. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about because you know somebody, you heard somebody, or you've been through the same situation before where people will mentally play games with your mind to get what they want out of you. This is a very sad story, but I'm glad it has a victorious ending, but at the cost of Samson's life. So, I see some things that she used, Delilah. And she used the word seduction, which is seducing someone or tempting or attractive thing to get something. Samson's strength was in his hair. And so, again, from birth, he was told not to let a razor touch his hair. But here comes Delilah. And the Philistines used this woman to take advantage and bribe her. She was bribed, Delilah, since she was so close to Samson, because they wanted to find out why he was such a bad boy. So they gave this woman 1,100 shekels, which was the money that was called in those days. About 3 years of wages to divulge the secret to Samson's strength so they could overcome him. Judges 16 and 5. Basically, they wanted to find him and they wanted to trap him and chain him. Because like I said, he was a mighty warrior back in these days and everybody feared him. But they didn't know what made him tick. So after a great deal of trial and error, mixed with mind games from Delilah, which I call mental abuse, because it's still something mental. It was seduction, but it was also mental abuse from a seductive and seducing woman. She proceeds, and the source of his strength he reveals to her and tells her, not one razor can cut my hair. And once the Philistines, the uncircumcised Philistines, heard that, they came in and bind him. And not only did they bind him, they plucked out his eyes. And now he was weakened. Samson. Then they took him into captive. Now he's blind, bound, and undedicated and manipulated. From strength to weakness. So Samson now cried out for God because now he's in a desperate situation. When I say desperate, I mean desperate situation. Have you ever been desperate before and you had to call on God to help you out because you just didn't know what to do? You didn't know if to go left or go right. But you were in a situation where you feel your hands was tied in a situation and you could not do a thing. Well, this is Samson. The man had to have been given power and strength from a child, now finding himself weak as water. I think about my own personal life and how I was mentally abused at my job, plus the military, and how the foreman one day got together and they teamed up on me out on one of my routes, trying to tell me I wasn't pulling the route fast enough. Basically, trying to get into my head and bully me to go faster so I can get more, which my route was already heavy as it can be. They wanted me to finish my route and go help somebody else or even go pull another route, saying I wasn't moving fast enough. Taking safety all out of the picture. So they began to harass me more and more, and I called corporate and I said, listen, these guys are harassing me. They're trying to get me to do this, they're trying to get me to do that, they're trying to get me to break the speed limit. And I told corporate that we had to get together in a meeting, and they had to investigate. And I got with HR, and we talked. But shortly after that meeting, my operation manager didn't like me going over his head and calling corporate on the company. So he called himself taking revenge against me. Now the foreman, he put the foreman up to doing the dirty work, but I called corporate on the foreman. So now the foreman got a free ticket, and now here steps in the operation manager. And now the operation manager has them to take all my routes away from me and put me on a bulk truck. They only left me with one route, but the rest of the 3 days, they put me on a bulk truck, calling themselves getting even with me. I'm going to tell you something. When you go over people's head at work, you will get reprisal. Some people say, well, you ain't going to get no repercussion. That's a lie from the pits of hell. I would tell all my friends today, don't call corporate, because if you do, they got something for you. They will take revenge. They will get even with you, because that's what they do. So, mental abuse is nothing to play with. People have died because of it. People have killed themselves because of mental abuse. They just couldn't take it any longer. And I think mental abuse is worse than physical abuse to me. Because once the devil and people and circumstances can get into your head, they can control the rest of you. The head is the headquarters of your thinking, your mind, your seeing, your hearing, your smelling, and it determines what move you're going to make. Everything starts right here. So if they can get into your head, they got you. And I was thinking about one day on my route that they pushing me so much to try to finish up a route so fast, I almost ran the stop sign and killed a lady in her car. So I had to stop, reset, and get myself together. Because some of these folks will run you crazy, especially if you work for a corporation. So I can understand Samson now, because this woman couldn't find out his secret in one day. She kept coming back, slowly but surely, seductively, seducing him to telling her his secret, because the other guys that put her up to it had a plan to take him out. I learned some things from this story. Number one, we cannot abuse any of God's gifts that He's given us. We can't abuse it, because we got some prophets that have now turned to false prophets. We got some pastors, and many of them are false pastors, because they play games on people's mind. They're all about your money and not about your soul. Jim Jones is one of them. Got everybody to leave, or a lot of people to leave the state of the United States and go to Guyana to take some poison to kill themselves. Got these people to mortgage off their homes, their cars, left everything for this fool who's a false prophet. Why? Because he got into their heads. He got into their minds. That's the first point. If God has gifted you, don't let nobody nowhere tamper with your gift that God has given you. Point two, sin leads to consequences. Because when we fall into the wrong hands of sinful people and we get off the right track, there's a price to pay. And so did Samson. Number three, even at our lowest points in life, God can still use us. It's not over until God said so. So, in closing, never allow anyone to mentally abuse you. Stand up and fight by using God as your weapon. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principality, powers of darkness. No weapon that's formed against me, it shall prosper. You're not fighting this battle alone, but God is fighting with you. Another thing that Samson had in his life that worked against him was Samson was controlled by the flesh, by sexuality. He was controlled by that. Even David got off course one time and was looking at Bathsheba bathe on the roof when he should have been out at war. And lost focus on who he really was and who God really called him to do. So, Samson also, and this is the last point I want you to see, Samson also confided in the wrong people. He confided in the wrong people. He told the wrong people his secrets and something that they shouldn't have never heard. That's self-inflicted. Because sometimes in life, you can put yourself in a bad situation. If God said don't go, don't go. If God said don't hang out with this group, then don't hang out with this group. God is trying to tell you something. So, in closing, my brothers and sisters, Keep your hands in God's hands and keep your mind fixed on him, for I shall keep him in perfect peace, whose mind stayed on him. Jesus Christ, our Lord. And remember, don't set yourself up for a moving target. People know that many of you are unique and special, and they want to find out what your secrets are. And they're trying to put you to sleep through circumstances. Never allow no one to mentally get into your head. Because when they do, they got you. If they can get this, they got the rest of you. And don't forget, you always got to be thinking. You always got to be having a strategy. Because the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So if your mind is on idle things, getting into stuff that you shouldn't be getting into, you're going to find your life ending up like Samson. Now, what these fools didn't know, that when they tied Samson up between two pillars of the temple, they had him tied up, laughing at him, mocking him. But even God would not allow his creation to be mocked without him doing something about it. So while they was laughing at him, drinking and partying and making fun out of him, talking about, where's your God now? Where's your strength now? They didn't realize that his hair began to grow back. And once he had enough hair that grew back, he pulled those pillars with all the strength that he had and pulled those strength pillars so hard that the whole building came tumbling down on himself and everybody else. What are you trying to say? He killed more people and more men in just those few moments of his hair growing back than he did in his whole lifetime. Never underestimate the power of God, because he always got a plan. If you got you chained up, he gonna loose those chains like he did Paul and Silas locked in prison. And remember, God don't need no matches, because he's fire all by himself. Hope you got something from this story. Remember, the strength lies in your mind. Keep your mind stayed on him, and don't let nobody tamper what God has given you right here. Because if they got this, they got everything. That's why you see a lot of people in the crazy house and the nuts house, because they allow people to take this. Hold on to this. Because it is your mind, your body, and your soul that you're going to need the remainder of your life while here on earth. So, in the meantime, between the time, always remember, life is to be enjoyed. Hit that description and notification. And always remember that life is to be enjoyed. Peace.